Hello viewers, this is Paladin of Odin, and this is some more Magic the Gathering Online. This is another episode of the Standard Commentary Series, and it looks like we've got Bant Aggro versus Simic Emerge. Simic currently has Delirium. He's got 4 types. Let's see, in his graveyard, Oracle's in his graveyard, he's got Vessel of Nascency. Bant just fired out Tamiyo. In response, sacrifice a vessel. Choose up to 2 target creatures until the next turn. Whenever either of those creatures deal combat damage, you draw a card. Very good way of restocking your hand. The vessel found Grapple with the Past, Shrine of the Forsaken Gods, Kozilek's Return, and Nissa's Pilgrimage. So, attacked in with the one that he could. And thanks to the vessel, he's got 5 types in his graveyard, so Emeracle's down to an 8-drop. Ishkana. Very good way of mucking up the board, especially against a deck like Bant Aggro. These little guys aren't going to trade very well, but they are going to slow him down. So, another +1 on Tamiyo. And again, it's not going to be very, one more turn with the +1, and she'll be up to 7. And I know I've said this before, but with this particular Planeswalker, I would have no qualms about immediately ulting her as soon as possible. The thought of, oh, but I want to keep her, so let's go one more turn so that she'll have 1 loyalty after I ult. That's usually what I want to do with a Planeswalker, but with her, no. Doesn't matter. Just ult immediately. So, Reflector Mage gets blocked by Ishkana. Dramoka's Command lets him kill off a Spider token and just barely save his Reflector Mage. So, the Mage and the Spider bounce off of each other. Bant gets to draw a card because Tamiyo says combat damage. She doesn't care to what. 1, 4, 5, 6. 1 more land, and he'll be able to play Emrakul because Shrine of the Forsaken Gods. Okay, Primal Druid. He could play something like Elderdeep Fiend here. Well, wait until his opponent's upkeep to do it. Okay, sacrificing the Primal Druid to emerge Wretched Gryff. Okay, that'll get him a land, draw a card, and if he wants to, he can pop Kozilek's Return and deal 5 damage to all of the creatures. It would mean that he'd be losing Ishkana, which is a very powerful card when you want to emerge something, but I think it might be worth it. And so does he. He blows up the board. So, Wretched Gryff is the last one standing. And he's in a pretty good spot. Like I said, five types means that on his next turn, if he has Emrakul in his hand, he can drop her. Lamholt Pacifist. And Thalia's Lieutenant. Well, that will make the Pacifist a 4/4, so it can attack. Unfortunately, he's going to have to go -2 on Tamiyo to keep her from taking 3 damage. -2 versus -3. You kind of do what you have to do to keep something as powerful as Tamiyo on the board. The only problem, though, is that Bant is already down to 1 card in hand. Draw 3. You may cast non-land cards from your hand without paying their mana costs. So, he really does need to have a turn or 2 of being able to +1 Tamiyo and attack with his creatures so that he can start refilling his hand. but that will mean having to come up with a way of dealing with Wretched Griff so that Tamiyo has the breathing space to be able to do that. But Bant is very capable of doing that. He could play Declaration in Stone. Reflector Mage would be a good answer in the short term because Wretched Griff is an expensive card unless you emerge it. Uh-oh. Oh, Ishkana. Okay. Not nearly as scary. I thought he was going to drop Emrakul there, and he's up to 6 types now, so 7 drop Emrakul now. Okay, giving the +1 to both of these, and attacking all in. Really should have put another spider token onto the Lampholt Pacifist. He would have been able to kill both of those creatures. And all he would have lost would have been 1 spider token. But Bant does draw 2 cards. Unfortunately, one of them was a land. And there's the Reflector Mage. Gets rid of the Wretched Griff. Problem is that he can very easily recast Wretched Griff right now because he could sacrifice Ishkana to do it. Though he could attack all in first. And let's see, block there, 3 damage. Tamiyo would be down to 2. Unless he has a Dramoka's Command in his hand so that he can force the Pacifist to fight Ishkana and kill her, most likely Tamiyo is going to take a lot of damage here. And he is going after Tamiyo. Okay, chump blocking Ishkana. 3 damage, Tamiyo's down to 2. And no spells are played, so Pacifist becomes a Butcher, which is a 5/5. But response from Emerge, Elder Deep Fiend? Elder Deep Fiend. And unfortunately, it looks like things have turned very bad for Bant here. He's just a little bit slower than he needs to be, your typical Bant opponent. And, sometimes you cannot control what happens. It's just the way the shuffler works. Sometimes you get what you need every single time. Sometimes it's a turn slow. And in a matchup like this, you can't really afford to be a turn slow. So he goes +1 on the big scary creatures. That way, when they do damage, he'll be drawing cards. Tamiyo's going to die. And Emerge has the card advantage, the board advantage. He can most likely kill Tamiyo with just the spider tokens and deal 8 damage to the face. But he's hedging his bets. He's going 6 on Tamiyo. Collected company from Bant. Finds Tireless Tracker and Thalia Heretic Cathar. It still won't save Tamiyo, but it came very close. He could block another spider with Thalia here since she has first strike. He really doesn't have to worry about her taking damage. And it would have been 1 less creature on the board to have to deal with, but he chose not to. Took 5 damage from the Deep Fiend. He's down to 13. Unfortunately, it's still Simic's turn. He has a ton of mana. He sacrifices Ishkana to play Wretched Griff. He still has a ton of mana. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 mana. 4 cards in hand. And this is Pilgrimage. I have to say, ever since Ramp took a dive in popularity, Nissa's Pilgrimage has been kind of a rare sight. Another Ishkana. 2 spells were played, so Butcher becomes Pacifist again. And that is quite the board to have to deal with. 5, 6, 3, 4 flyer, 3, 5 reach, and 5 1, 2 reach tokens. The only good news is that thanks to Thalia being in play, they all come into play tapped. Another Tireless Tracker. That'll be a lot of clue tokens, though I don't know that he has the time to use them. Throbbing Inspector. Another cheap blocker. Unless, of course, he has a Thalia's Lieutenant to throw out, in which case it becomes a halfway decent blocker. You know, a 1-2, not that great. A 2-3, not too bad. Okay, just going in with the creature that he can't block. 3 damage to the face. And Primal Druid. Lamholt Pacifist. Now, Primal Druid, I think, is probably going to be replaced in when Kaladesh comes out with the little fox artifact creature that comes into play. You gain 2. When it dies, you get a land. So basically the same creature. It's 1 more mana, but it has many more benefits than just the Primal Druid. And it fit. Honestly, I think it would fit a little bit better in Emerge, since you're already running Pilgrim's Eye, which is almost the same thing. You know, you're gaining 2 life and 1 attack and 1 toughness versus the flying, but then you would have 2 artifact creatures in your deck, so you'd have more of a chance to get them into the graveyard, to give you 2 more types in your graveyard. It's a little bit better than Primal Druid. It's also 3 mana, so the Emerge cost goes down by 3 as opposed to 2 with the Primal Druid. Sacrificing the Druid to play the Wretched Griff with Emerge. And this is basically the thing you have to do against Bant Aggro in a deck like Emerge, is you just have to fill the board with as much as you can, as fast as you can, so that you can slow them down. And then currently Bant is at the point where he has to pop clue tokens to try and find some answers here. He's down to 7. With this clue token, he'll be back up to 3 cards in hand. Another clue token puts him up to 4 cards in hand, but he won't most likely be able to play anything this turn. Oh, it was at the end of turn, sorry. So, 5 cards in hand, 4, 8, 9 mana. 10 mana. Okay, another Tamiyo. Reflector Mage. Is he gonna bounce? Wretched Griff? No, he's gonna bounce Ishkana. Not exactly the greatest field to get to pick one creature from. You know, Elder Deep Fiend, you know, you don't really want him to get to recast that. Wretched Griff, you know, kind of iffy. Ishkana, honestly, I think I would have picked Wretched Griff over Ishkana, but then again, Ishkana is a 5-drop. So, oh crap, Traverse the Ulvenwald. That's going to get him Emrakul. And unfortunately, I think that's going to be the game. No, Elderdeep Fiend. Maybe he's only running one copy of Emrakul? Well, Elderdeep Fiend lets him tap some stuff down. 4 creatures. He's going for the big ones, leaving him a Lambholt Pacifist, which can block. Oh, and Reflector Mage. Almost didn't see him. He's up here in the lands. But let's see, 2/3 and a 3/3 versus 2 3/4s with flying. They can't stop. A 5/6 and 5 1/2 creatures. And he's just going face. 3, yeah, this game. And I have to say, this is actually a really good match. You know, Bant Aggro did not have a bad run. The Simic Emerge deck did not have a bad run. That is just one hell of a good fight between these two decks, and honestly, it just feels like Bant Aggro was maybe a step behind, and then just was never able to catch up. And even for being that one step behind, he was still able to hold his own for a long time here. Ooh, Dramoka's Command. Lets him fight off one of those guys. So he did have a trick up his sleeve, but he just was one life point too low. And honestly, if he had had one more life point, he would have won that game. He only had 4 mana with a merge. It's possible that he could have played something else, but most likely that was it. That was his alpha strike to win the game, and Bant lost by 1 life point. That really was a close match. That was a good fight between these two decks. And it's a good show of the fact that Bant Aggro is not invincible. It is a very, very well-rounded and very, very good deck, but it's not perfect. And this video is almost 18 minutes long, which really sucks. I try not to have videos be this long, but this was a good game, so I'm still going to put it up. I'm going to end the video now as fast as I can. That was Bant Aggro versus Simic Emerge, and if you liked what you saw, hit that like and subscribe button for me, and I will see you in the next video.